Hello. Oh, there's my brother. I thought you were. Yeah, I thought you were in Selma. Okay. Oh, I knew that. My name is Sue Mason, and I'm from Ollie to kind of represent our welcome to y'all. And I'm going to make one announcement for Ollie people. And if y'all get to where, man, I love that Ollie stuff, you can join up with us too. All you got to do is call the office and tell them you just fell in love with Ollie, and we'll just take you right in. On the 5th of December, there's a Christmas party at 11:30 at the Episcopal Church. You've probably all heard that, but call the office to sign up. And that's really, I think, the only announcement. We had a veterans program last week that went really well, and this one is just wonderful. We're so glad so many of you are here with us. And would you raise your hand if you are a veteran of any service? Whoa. All right. All right. That's just great. And just one other quick question, and I think that'll be all. Did you, if you would tell me, how did y'all find out about this program this afternoon? Letter to the editor. Okay, Bob wrote that.
I received a mailing.
A mailing? Okay, great. From Ollie? Wonderful. No. How did she know? Oh. That's funny. Okay. Bob? My class last week. Ooh, good. Paper? Okay, great, because we sent a lot of notifications out, and we wanted a lot of people to be here, because this is, to me, it's a big deal. Veterans are part of my family. My brother was a Marine. My husband's Army, went to Iraq. He went to Vietnam a couple of times. Our daddy landed at D-Day, went through the Bulge and on out, and his brother was a Marine in the Pacific, and I don't think I'm leaving anybody out. The men in our family just go to the services. So it's very close to my heart. Bob Kreibel over here, who probably most of you know, or the Olliers all know anyway, knew these two gentlemen from a website actually, and he's gotten to know them, and he's going to introduce them to you. So, Bob?
Put it real close. Yeah. Is there one here? Of the USS Liberty and the attack. About a year after I got out of the Navy, I was discharged. I was living in San Diego at the time.
Sorry to interrupt you. You're not. There you go.
I was living in San Diego at the time, and it was a lot smaller than it is today, and it was primarily a Navy town and an aerospace town. I think there were half a dozen Navy bases within the city limits and 2 Marine bases there. On one day in June of 1967, I happened to pick up the San Diego Union newspaper. On the front page was a banner headline. It said, forgetting the exact words, but something like U.S. ship attacked in the Med. And there was just a few lines following the headline that said that they really didn't know anything about it yet. They knew there was an attack. They didn't know who the attackers were, and didn't mention anything else about the attack they didn't know. Well, we didn't have the news programs, the cable news we have today. So I waited around for the next day for the San Diego Union, and I wanted to see what this was all about. So I grabbed my newspaper and I pick it up and look at the front page. Nothing. Page 2, nothing. Page 3, still nothing. I kept digging through the paper, and back near the end of the first section, there was a 1-column width story of a couple inches long. And basically all it said is that the USS Liberty had been attacked in the Mediterranean by the Israelis, and it was an error, a mistake. So I kind of wrote it off as just a small incident that probably wasn't that important. But as time went on, I learned more and more about the attack. I discovered it really wasn't just a small incident. It was a coordinated air-sea attack. Jet planes attacked with cannons, bombs, rockets, napalm, and they were followed up with torpedo boat attacks, machine guns and torpedoes. When the attack was over, 70% of the Liberty's crew were casualties. 34 were killed, 171 were wounded. And the ship was heavily damaged, and it was only heroic efforts by the crew and their damage control that kept it from sinking. My guess is that some of you, maybe many of you, have heard very little about the attack. Today we're fortunate to have two members of the surviving crew here today, over here. You can see Mo Schaefer and Bob Scarborough. They're members of the most decorated crew in the Navy since World War II, and one of the most decorated Navy crews ever. Mo's agreed to give us a first-hand account of what happened that day and why we know so little about it. And he brought his shipmate, Bob Scarborough, along to help in the question period. Mo is originally from West Virginia. He's now a successful businessman in Marietta. At the time of the attack, he was an intercept operator with a naval security group aboard USS Liberty. And he and Bob were both in a room that had about 50 people in when a torpedo hit it and killed 25 of the 50. Fortunately, both Bob and Mo survived. Let's celebrate Veterans Day a day early with a warm Auburn welcome for Mo Schaefer and Bob Scarborough.
Thank you, Bob. Thank you. So am I turned on? Yes, sir. Good. Well, I'll stand back here just a second so I can just prove that to help me with the jitters a little bit and so forth. Thank you all so much for inviting me down here. I really want to introduce my shipmate, Bob Scarborough, who he and I were in the room where the torpedo hit, and that's why I might want to move out behind here because of my height. I used to be 6'1", but anyway, we're very privileged to be here. I have no script, so I think what you'll hear today is, it's been 15 years since I've told this story too in public, but it's just coming from the heart and telling you all exactly what happened that day. And it's a profound day in history. The USS Liberty still goes down in history as the largest cover-up in the history of our government, still today. I can talk to my friend, my U.S. Senator Johnny Isakson in Atlanta, Georgia, and because of his political agenda, he cannot get involved. I appreciate what you did, Mo, but they can't risk their agenda as a senator or a congressman, or anybody can't do any of those things maybe to really try to help you, because once we ask for help or want the truth told, it's just a very polite, no, we cannot help you. So kind of to take you, I have some pictures I'm going to show in a little bit too, and Bob and I will kind of go through with them so you can truly see what happened. But I'll get out here and try to talk to you in the sense that, again, I'm Mo Schaefer. I was a communications technician on the USS Liberty. I grew up in West Virginia. All the roads are one-way leading out, so I found my way finally and got out of there and moved to Atlanta. But very young, I joined the Navy. I had no idea what my career would entail at that point, but you're kind of tested and all those things that are done when you're an enlisted person to what criteria you're best suited for. And I think Bob and I both were suited to be in the Naval Intelligence Group with the National Security Agency, which, by the way, our ship was really controlled by NSA, the National Security Agency. So we went to school, and in those days you couldn't say anything about what you were going to do because we were a spook ship, so to speak, a spy ship. And I couldn't say I was an intercept operator. I don't care anymore. It's been 52 years. They've covered it up. So we're here to tell it just like it is, what we did. And we will take questions and so forth. I want you to really understand something else too. I'm telling this story from my heart. I'm not Jewish. I have a lot of Jewish friends. I have no issue with the country of Israel. I have issue with the Israeli Defense Force, Mr. Mushi Dayan, who chose to shoot us out of the water and try to kill us. Okay, that's would be my personal issue. So I just want you to know that, because sometimes you can be taken wrong when you're really trying to tell your story in such a very sensitive, again, remember, cover up. And that's what we deal with in that situation today. So anyway, I'll jump ship and go back to June the 8th of 1967. Before that happened, we were working the west coast of Africa. We were a spy ship. There were 5 of those ships on the high seas at that time. One, I'm sure many of you veterans, by the way, thank you all, the veterans, for your service. One of those ships was the USS Pueblo. Anybody remember the Pueblo? That was captured by the North Koreans. 81 people on board. They spent 10 months in prison. I think 1 died. Captain Lloyd Booker, who became a personal friend and came to some of our reunions and so forth too, to me was an American hero, even though he was court-martialed for surrendering his ship. He had no guns. He had nothing. And by the way, he, as a captain of his ship, and Captain McGonigal, who were on the USS Liberty, were secured with a secret classification, so they couldn't even come in our spaces. They weren't allowed to come behind the coded doors to what we did. So you can't blame a Lloyd Booker for what happened that day. But again, there were 5 of us on the high seas. We were highly sophisticated. This ship right here, you'll see, has a lot of little antennas and masts on it, and every one of those masts are covered in antennas. Okay, and then you see on the back here a little basket. It looks like your TV basket in your backyard 30 years ago. So that was called Trescom. And Trescom was a basket that when the moon was out, we could transmit off the moon back to NSA and transfer all our high intelligence things that we intercepted. We intercepted through Morse code. We did it through language. We had linguists on board. We had all the telemetry, the things that we did too. So it was extremely sophisticated for 1967 to have what we had on board there. And obviously we were to find out what's going on. And every country that is out there has some type of security group that's out trying to find out what's going on. And as you know, in today's world of the political arena, it's all about who can scoop whoever and what's going on, which is kind of sad. Think about it. Had we had CNN or Fox News or whatever in 1967, do you think I'd ever be up here today talking about this? It would have been unbelievable what would have taken place. But I'll go back to off the west coast of Africa. We're in Abidjan, the Ivory Coast, and we worked those countries down the coast there. And I say worked, that we had special projects that we were supposed to be doing on there. I don't go into detail exactly what they were, but in Abidjan, 2 in the morning, we're out that night having fun or whatever, and we get called back to the ship, and the captain's on the bridge, Captain McGonigal, and he says, "We're heading out. You're allowed to notify your families that you'll be heading out. We don't know how long we'll be gone. Can't tell them what they're doing." Now think about the naval security guys in there. We kind of knew something was going on, but the other people, the machinists, the engineers, the people who cooked our food, whoever, that did the painting, did everything, they had no clue what was going on, and because they didn't have the need to know. But we left. We pulled into Rota, Spain. We stopped there for 24 hours. We picked up 4 people from NSA, 2 Marines, and a couple civilians. They were linguists or special analytical people in the arena of security, and picked them up, got our supplies, and pulled out and headed toward the Sinai Peninsula for this thing called the 6-Day War. None of us knew there was a 6-day war. We're out on a ship, but we didn't. What is a 6-day war? Okay, so there's this thing, ends up being called the 6-Day War, where Egypt and Israel have gone to battle. And so we're going into that zone there to intercept whatever we can. Nobody wants to take blame for starting a war. Nobody wants to do whatever. So we were there and perceived to be there to find out what was going on. And we were. At one point, we were sent a message to go 50 miles out by Israel. We never got the message. It was sent to the Philippines by mistake. So we stayed within 13 miles, which international waters are 3 miles out to sea. So we were out in international waters. And we were absolutely out there on June 8th, 1967, that morning, with an absolutely spectacular day like it is outside today, not a cloud in the sky. The people that were working, the people that weren't were sunbathing and doing their normal things out there, casting a line, trying to catch a shark, or doing something off the side of the ship. And so, you know, we had a pretty good life out there. And so on this Trescom basket I'm talking about right back here, that is the highest secured piece of equipment on the ship. And so nobody was allowed to be there, but a few people were allowed to be near that high technical piece of equipment. And it had to be clean too. You're out at sea, you got salt, you have to do whatever. So not only did we didn't use other people in the ship painters or whatever, we had to do that ourselves. And my friend Jimmy Cavanaugh and I are out on the ship that day, and our duty is to clean up that basket and make sure it's operable and all that. Meantime, our stations, our workstations, are down underwater. The high security area of the ship was underwater with a coated door, a little more humor. The guys that didn't like us, that couldn't come in, we told them we had a swimming pool down there. We told them we had pool tables, we had a movie theater, we had all those things, so they hated us. But anyway, still, and we still had good fellowship on the ship, but still, I lost my train of thought. But anyway, so that day, in cleaning that basket, there's the first set of planes come over, and they are boxcar planes. And we have some photographs of that too, with the Star of David on it. They're boxcars with the big doors open. There's people hanging out with cameras. And again, the Star of David. Do you feel secure? I did. I felt pretty secure. We're over there. We can see bombs, or we can see the smoke, all the stuff from all the damage going off in Egypt and so forth. So they're out there to protect us. But meantime, they're photographing us like you wouldn't believe. And then 30 minutes later, another 2 planes come out. Another planes come out, like 5 or 6 times. And Jimmy and I are now close enough to see the faces, to do whatever, to wave or whatever, and they're taking pictures. Those planes were taking pictures going back to Mushi Dayan's war room and analyzing all those pictures. Remember all those masts and all those things there where those antennas are? In a few minutes, I'll tell you, you'll see why they studied everything they could study on that ship. Again, no warning. So the captain was a little concerned. We didn't know that, but he decided to call a general quarters drill. You know what that's a battle drill that they call, and you go, everybody has to run and man their stations. You got to batten down the ship and prepare yourself if you were going to be attacked. And so we went through that general drill, and everything went smoothly. Then when that was over, my friend Jimmy and I were going back up to go back on the basket and finish up our work up there. And all of a sudden we hear this whoosh, and looking up and hear the piercing or whatever's going on, and here's a jet flying right over our head. Now I'm standing up topside on I'm on back here in this back side on this side of the ship. So the jets came straight over the bow of the ship, the first strafe. The second jet was over here and came dead out of the sun, so you never saw that jet coming. And Spicer, our mailman's up there with us. Me and Jimmy Cavanaugh are up there too. And the missile comes out of that, and I see him take the missile. Then you know, oh my God, what's going on? I mean, I'm a kid. I'm 20 years old. You know, nobody, I mean, I'm sure there's some Vietnam veterans in here that understand what it's like to deal in battle or deal in combat or whatever, but I had never experienced anything like that. So you say, now what do I do? So I shot down the ladder. Of course, the general quarters drill goes off. Meantime, up on this upper bridge, all this upper area, there's a lot of people out in the back too, sunbathing or just out observing, doing whatever. And the first strafe of those jets was what was called anti-personnel weapons. So their intent was to kill every person they could or shoot every person they could. It was outside up on the decks of the ship and clear that off. And then when I shot down the ladder to go down to my station, I went down underwater because I was a Morse code operator, and I went down to my station in my spaces. So now, us that went down there, we're disconnected from what's going on. We just know we're under attack, and during that time we're down there, there's 3 more strafes, okay? So they took everybody with anti-personnel, then they went to armored piercing, cannons and bullets and so forth. And at that point then, they took and shot every place where you could run in and hide. So they'd take 3-inch cannons and hit all those rooms, and they were just like flies. They were just knocking out. Remember, 174 wounded, okay? 34 killed, but 174 wounded that day, and 90% of them were with shrapnel. And I'm talking a lot of deaths. 9 people were killed on top, 25 died in a torpedo room. And then out of 294, remember 294 total people, that's a huge casualty list. So anyway, going down to the spaces where we were, we're there and we can hear the piercing coming through, almost clear down a full deck below, coming down into our spaces. And we're wondering what's going to happen. We're still alive. Meantime, on top, going back to that, now they shoot us up. Then they decide to hit our gas tanks we had up there for our other boats we had on the side of the ship, and then they napalmed us. So think about napalm hitting a ship this small and how it absolutely incinerated the bridge of the ship. And with all these guys up there trying to defend. And you also, in some of the pictures, you'll see we had 4 50 caliber machine guns, rusted, covered in plastic, whatever. We weren't prepared for anything. But we have guys that went to those gun mounts with whatever they had and wanted to try to defend our ship. We had guys trying to break down our gun locker, which had pistols in it, trying to find a way to defend ourselves. And the blood and the carnage on that ship was beyond what you could imagine. And back to that straits, okay? All these masts, all these things, you had this big mast in the center of the ship. All the wires are going up the mast. The wires are going out. You got your little antennas. Not only did they hit every antenna with 3 strafes, okay, they hit every antenna with a cannon right through them. They hit every stack of wires perfectly. So in that time, they knocked out our communication. And so we had no communication on the ship to get any messages out, except Terry Halbardier, one of our crew members, our radioman. He went out and found one antenna that was disconnected, got some coaxial cable, and hooked this thing up, and he got a message out. Under attack, I don't know the exact words, rock star, but under attack, believed to be Arabs. That's the thing to remember, believed to be Arabs, okay? Because those jets that hit us were French Phantom jets, unmarked, and looked just like a Delta Wing MiG. So that's where the cover-up comes in. But anyway, Terry wires that. We get one message back. Help is on the way, okay? The rest of that is after we get through here is remind me of how long it took for us to get any aid. But now, Bob and I and 48 of our shipmates are down below, and the captain comes over. This is about a 20-minute lull of silence after the jets leave. He says, prepare for torpedo attack. Now, I looked at my buddy Jimmy, who I'd been with all morning up in that basket, and I says, Jimmy, how the blank do we prepare for a torpedo, if you think about it? And for some reason, he and I laid down on the floor and wrapped our arms around a table leg and just buried our heads, and that impact hit. And in that room, there's the side of the ship, a little thin wall, a ladder, a little thin wall, I'm talking this thick, okay, and the other side of the ship with all this highly sophisticated equipment in it. The torpedo came in on impact. That torpedo pierced, okay, and the reason it saved us probably, it was a homing torpedo, a French homing torpedo that is supposed to pierce, come in, implode, and explode, and blow the ship in half, and we sink. It went off on contact. So that probably saved the crew of that ship. Killed 25 in that room, but because of that, and it came in and made the hole 39 feet wide. This room's what, maybe a little more than that. and 24 feet high. Okay? That's a pretty big hole in the side of the ship. And we had some we lost out the side or whatever of the ship there. But then that hole, then it takes out this wall. We never found this wall. Remember that little thin one? We never found this thin wall, and it went out the other side of the ship through our big receivers, through everything or whatever, and put holes in the other side of the ship. And God left, the only thing he could do to get out was our ladder. The ladder was perfect, totally intact. And you think you're instantly, when the explosion hit, I remember falling, and so I thought the deck had been blown out and I'd gone down another deck. But anyway, in that fall, I was coming from the ceiling. I'd been blown instantly into the ceiling, a little unconscious probably. And when I came to, I was in water, falling into water. And of course, the hole filled up instantly. By the way, the floor was still there. Okay, so it was just the impact of blowing it, and a lot of concussions from that we had. And anyway, I remember just grabbing a shirt. I was underwater. It was black because all the oil tanks had been hit in there too. And again, it turned out to be Jimmy, and he dragged me over. And all the hatches are closed on the ship from general quarters, but we had the little round escape hole opened, and a Buddha, Bob Schnell, our great shipmate, was there pulling us all out. And so remember, we left 25 down there. And we know now that some were just stranded and couldn't possibly help themselves, so they drowned. And but we really only identified one of those persons by their physical look. The rest were a watch or a name band or a name tag or something like that. So it was beyond carnage. What's more amazing is that 25 of us got out of that room. And a lot of injuries, but I'm going to say unscathed, pretty much unscathed. So what's the difference? What's the line that draws the difference there? And I can't answer that. I know myself, I was spared from my mother because my brother in the Navy had died the year before. So I think that you believe in God's destiny or whatever, why you're here, or things, because I saw guys I knew that were married and with kids, and here I am a kid. But I'm just giving you the reality of what it was like out there at that time. But anyway, the torpedo hits, we get out. Now we come out of the hole. The ship is full of dark smoke. We're soaking wet. We're black with oil, okay? And now where do we go? Number one, I lived through the air attack. Now I've lived through a torpedo. So now where do I go to get finished off, if you think about it, okay? What's our next step to go? So we go up on the front deck of the ship. Of course, you look up, the captain is on the bridge, leaning over the bridge, yelling for people to come up and help put out the fires. And then in a few minutes, I saw my buddy Birdman over there with a big pierce in his head and laying over there with water sprinkling on him. So I went over and I grabbed him. But anybody we could grab or whatever, we ended up taking all those people to our mess decks, which became our hospital. But in that part when you're up there, the next thing that happened is a helicopter comes over with the Star David. Comes over with machine guns hanging out. And you're there, okay, you're just saying to yourself, go ahead and shoot me. Go ahead, let's get this over with. But they throw out a paper bag with an orange in it to give it a little weight with a note in it that says, have you casualties? And there's people laying all over. There's blood everywhere. There's whatever. And here is that we realized then that Israel had blown up our ship. Remember I said earlier, under attack, believed to be Arabs. Help is on the way. So, to set the stage for that, because it's changed dramatically over 52 years with more information coming out, the Freedom of Information Act and things, and we still can't get our hands on it. Last week I met with an attorney in Atlanta that we're still trying to find ways to get some of these documents with LBJ and McNamara and people like that on it. But anyway, back to the ship. We're there. They see, looking up and seeing the whole ship in total flames and whatever. So now the rest of the time, because it had stopped, and then again, in a few more minutes, the torpedo boats come up to the ship. They shot 5 torpedoes, 4 missed, thank God. Okay, and then they come up and they're just pelleting the ship, trying to kill anybody they can kill up there, and then the captain says, prepare to abandon ship, because we're listing it about 13 to 15 degrees, and so not sure whether the ship will capsize or whatever, to prepare for. When we jettisoned our life rafts, they shot our life rafts out of the water. Now, if I understand the rules of the Geneva Conference correctly, I think you're required to take prisoners of war if you're in a situation that requires you're technically surrendering. There's nothing else, no way you can defend yourself. And in 2007, we filed a war crimes report and in Washington, D.C., and to Rumsfeld and to the Secretary of the Army. Again, a war crimes report is required to be investigated by those 2 offices. Okay? We've never heard a word since 2007, not a single word. It goes back to the cover-up. So anyway, the Bob Scarboroughs, the Mo Schaefers, so many of the crew there are in a daze. We don't know, we don't have time to realize whether you're injured or whatever, because there's so many people injured so bad. Our mess decks became the epicenter of our ship, because those were the only places that you could lay people out, that you could put them out and work on them. And I hope I'm not boring you all, but Lieutenant Commander Armstrong, our executive officer of the ship, rest in peace, Philip, he was quite a character. He liked sipping his booze, and he's shot really bad on that first strafe. He's hit in the groin and bleeding pretty badly, and he sends one of the crewmen, he says, run up to my stateroom and give me my bottle of, let's say, Jack Daniels. And he's laying on the table there, and Dr. Kiefer is our only doctor on the ship, is trying to help him, and he says, leave me alone, take care of my crew. Do not touch me till you've taken care of my crew. And we watched him lay there, take a few sips, and bleed to death and die. And so is he a hero? Absolutely, he is. And we can give you multiple stories of people who sacrificed and didn't make it that night. I personally took care of a guy I counted 51 holes in him, 2 through the head with 20 millimeters. And for some reason, he's still alive today. He can't speak good, he can't do whatever, but I like to feel maybe I had some small part, and it was a matter of just keeping him from suffocating, keeping his throat clear. I did it with a straw like you drink a Coke. And, but anyway, so, I mean, people with, again, guys that have been in battle, you've seen it all, that you just got a perfect hole through your body where everything else is intact and whatever. It was just beyond what you can imagine that day. It shakes me to talk about it, but I'm glad I can talk about it, because you guys need to know these things that happened. So anyway, remember, help is on the way. We sat for 23 hours dead in the water, okay, with nobody. One doctor, Doc Kiefer, had his guts blown up, sewed himself up, put a life vest on, which scared some people because they wondered if he was going to jump over the board, but that was to keep himself, and probably saved 70 lives that night, okay? I mean, it's beyond what you can really talk about. But every one of us became a doctor because he gave us rules. Go do this, go do that, go do this, go do that, whatever. And he had his priorities. So he was doing surgery the whole time. And so then, in that 23 hours, you can just imagine the anxiety and the fear still in you, and the things that you dealt with, and how did this happen, and why would Israel do this to us? And I think the reason being, at that point, Israel had a very clear mission, was to wipe out our ship with unidentified aircraft and plan on sinking us, and we're gone, and we would have gone in and bombed, or gone in to wipe out Egypt off the map. And we have reason to believe today, and we have reason to believe that DC may have even known about it before it happened. And that's two people, Johnson and McNamara, the two, largest scumbags on earth. But anyway, we have Johnson quoted as taking the phone away from an admiral, or from McNamara. I was talking to an admiral, and saying, "I will not jeopardize my relationship with Israel. Let the son of a bitches sink." Okay? So, I mean, we're talking some powerful, powerful stuff that's come out of that. But now, all of a sudden, on the sunrise, comes over the Sixth Fleet. I mean, you see this ship's coming, and the USS Davis, a destroyer, comes up to our side and connects with us and starts coming on to shore up our bulkheads. Remember, the water's full down there, so the ship is like jelly. So they're shoring up these bulkheads to keep us from sinking, and then to help us find our way to Malta after that. But that day, on June the 9th, the whole day was a helicopter coming over, taking one or two bodies, hovering over the bridge, and taking all the casualties off the ship to the America aircraft carrier, where they were hospitalized there. At the end of that day, I think I realized after 20 or 30 hours that I'd been injured myself. You're just in a daze. I'd had a major concussion, had my leg hurt some, but there again, it was unbelievable compared to all the other injuries on the ship. I think Bob was in kind of the same situation, but the concussions, remember, hitting that ceiling from the blast and all that. So myself and four other guys were helicoptered off to the Little Rock, the USS Little Rock, which was the flagship of the Sixth Fleet, where Admiral Martin, who was the commandant of the Sixth Fleet. So we got on his ship. He came down to console us. I don't know if his comments were to console us or make us feel good, but I've been quoted in books and whatever too, because I was witness with four of my other shipmates that he says, "I loaded 4 planes off the Saratoga aircraft carrier with conventional weapons to come and help you. You were under attack to come and help you, believed to be Arabs." Okay? So those planes are in the air. Admiral Martin loaded 4 planes off the America aircraft carrier with nuclear warheads in the sky to be headed to Cairo if needed. Now, he didn't have the power to pull that trigger, but he certainly launched those planes that were deadheaded to Cairo and ready if there was a strike. So here's the rest of the story back then. There's been a lot more controversy over it later, but the story then, and the story to me is still so clear, is Mushi Dayan's in his war room, maybe gloating, and he's not gloating because we didn't sink. We're supposed to be gone, okay? But he's there, and all of a sudden his radar picks up these jets coming. Think about it. He says, "Oh, crap, I've been caught." So he calls up Johnson and says, "We screwed up. We attacked your ship by mistake. We apologize," or whatever. Johnson and McNamara instantly call back those planes. Remember, it took us 23. Help could have been there instantly, all right, within 20 minutes. The fleet was 400 miles away from us. And we ran solo because of our egos probably, but we had asked for a destroyer to go beside us, and we went into the Sinai Peninsula, and the Sixth Fleet refused to give us the escort. I wonder why that happened. That makes you think too, did we know what was going on the whole time? And there was a whole plot because Russia was right there, okay? Everybody was right there. Then you think about it, on June the 8th, that's what, the third day into the war? Why would they want to shoot us out so we come in and blow up Egypt for them when they'd already wiped out Egypt in the first day? They wiped out their whole complete Air Force ring. So is there a rat in the closet? There really is, as to why this happened. There was a much, much, much deeper. We have two submarines, one that filmed the whole thing. We've never gotten the film or whatever, but we're out there, and we were prepared for a potential nuclear holocaust on June the 8th, 1967. And we probably came within 5 minutes of that potentially happening. And there again, how many of you knew this story? How many of you really know the truth behind it? Anything written is challenged because it can't be true. I probably have 100 good Jewish friends. I have 3 that are like my closest friends. And I can say anything I want in the world, but they still can't believe that they would do something intentional like that. And I understand that. I do understand that. But again, it goes back. It's not about, it could have been any country that shot us. Somebody shot us. They killed 34. They wounded 174 out of 294 and left us dead in the water, hoping that we would sink. And our country didn't do anything. So it's not about who did it. It's about who has never, still 52 years later, come to our aid. They've never come close to helping us. So when the fleet comes up, then we head the ship at a slow 5-day pace, which I was off in the hospital. So the ship works its way to Malta. Took it 5 days to get there, just barely steaming, and with the escort of the Davis. To Malta, where there was a dry dock. And that's right off the coast of Greece. And the day the ship landed in Greece, or in Malta, I was flown back. Hey, I got to fly off an aircraft carrier. So in a mail plane, it goes real slow and goes down. I thought it was going to touch the water, but anyway, I got to go back and meet my ship because I said I want to be with my ship. I don't want to go back to home or anything. I want to be there with my shipmates. And that day, Bob was, I think, on the first detail, but our shipmate Ron Kukul, a first-class petty officer, was in charge of the cleanup. You pull into dry dock, you empty all the water out of the dry dock, then you have your hole in the side of the ship, all the stuff coming out of that. You see the carnage of all the damage done to the ship, and then somebody's got to go clean out those bodies. And so there was a crew. So I came back that day. So they had already brought out most of the bodies, but then I spent the next 32 days in that hole myself while we were on dry dock in that highly classified area. It's profound what it was like and what we had to clean up. And on the 30th day, we were still finding parts of bodies of our shipmates. So it's just an unbelievable story. And while we were in Malta, Admiral Geis and, not Martin, no, there was Geis and one other, I'll think of it in a minute, 2 admirals who came on board to do a naval inquiry on what was going to happen, to investigate what happened. So they did a 4 or 5 day investigation. By the way, the only investigation in history that's ever been done. There's a gentleman named Crystal that wrote a book about the Liberty, which is a farcical book that were like 9 investigations done. He said he'd interviewed all the crew. He never interviewed one human being. And so we know he was paid off to write that book to squelch everything. But we have books that are available in our store on our website that certainly tell the real story because they're written by a shipmate, written by a son of one of our shipmates. And we have that, and we have some DVDs, and we're also doing a documentary right now It's going to be a 4-part miniseries, just the crew and key people. And hopefully early next year, in January, that will be available. So we'll try to get the news out on how you can get that, because it's a company called True News. They're like a Fox, but they're not big yet. They're still building themselves. They're Christian-based, and they are very interested in us. And so we're excited to possibly have more people get to hear our story. And it comes, I say, from the crew members. But in that court of inquiry, after that, the admirals came out to us shipmates and said, and got word to everybody else in the ship had already left too, if you ever talk about this, period, to your family, to anybody, even the guys that didn't have security clearances, if you ever talk about this, you will be court-martialed and put in jail. That's pretty profound, okay? I never talked about it. I waited 15 years until we had our first reunion that I found out by accident, and then we started opening up. But even though I was injured, and I've had 12 operations since that time, and I'm still fighting the VA for benefits, by the way, okay? I go to everything I go to with the VA. You know what they say to me? There's no history of this attack. I said, well, my DD-214 says I have a Purple Heart, and I had all this doctor stuff done. You know what happened? That's gone. They wiped that out. There's no record that I was ever on the Little Rock in the hospital for 5 days. Is that not profound? So I'm just saying that if the things we tell you today or leave you with today or whatever are, it's a profound story. But then we took that ship in Malta. This will make you really sick. And we helped do it because we were ordered to do it. Clean it up and make the ship look like it was brand new and never had a mark on it. And when you see some of these pictures, it's unbelievable because there wasn't a mark. It looked like it had just come out of the factory, brand new, gutted inside. And then we had a little escort ship called a little tugboat, the Papago, escort us back to the United States. And I said, I'm going with it. There was 9 of us stayed on that ship to bring it home, and I wanted to be on that thing when we got back into Norfolk. And there's a little humor in that too, because we get into the Straits of Gibraltar, and it's coming out of the Med into the Atlantic Ocean, and there's a big fog bank, so we're all asleep, and we have our escort there, but you can't see anything, so somebody on the bridge sounds the general quarters drill. Well, the last time I'd heard a general quarters drill was on June 8th. So, I mean, talk about panic comes through your body or whatever. We got through that fine. Then we come into Norfolk, or Little Creek, near Norfolk, Virginia, and we can see out there that there's some flags out there, some people out there, and we ran into a sandbar. So we're stuck out there for like 11 hours. And we're watching all the people leave. So anyway, and by the way, we had no political person of any consequence meet us and greet us. It was just families, because when we got in, I had the privilege, to today, I had the privilege with 2 of my fallen shipmates, their parents were there, and they asked me to take them through the ship and show them everything on the ship. So, and they never forgot that. That they did that. So, Bob, am I missing anything that I left? Pardon? No, well, I still want. Now, I want to talk about. There were a lot of medals on the ship. Okay, Captain McGonigal is an unbelievable human being. Here's a guy I told you didn't have the clearance to come down into our spaces or whatever, but on that bridge, he was shot. Francis Brown, one of our shipmates, saw the missile coming too, and Francis jumped up and knocked him off the helm, and he stood there and took the full missile and was killed instantly, and then the captain was hurt pretty bad too. But he wouldn't give up the bridge. He would not leave the ship. They had to take his command away from him later on, like 20 or 30 hours later. Oh, excuse me, we'd gotten to dry dock. And he was still injured very badly. It is Malta, so we're talking 5 days. He's in Malta, and they had to take his command away because he would not leave that ship. He's the only person in the history of the military ever to win the Medal of Honor, and we were not at war. This was a 6-day war between Egypt and Israel. We were not at war. So in most cases, they didn't want to give us any medals, our government, because we weren't at war. But we won that battle also. So the only Medal of Honor ever in history, and Lyndon Johnson would not pin that on him. They sent him to a Navy yard out in the back somewhere, and some guy pinned on his Medal of Honor to my captain, who, by the way, 5 of our shipmates who we never identified rest in Arlington. And we go there every June the 8th. Several of us do. I don't go every year, but a lot of us go and have a memorial service. And No Greater Love does the taps, does the whole complete thing there. But what blessed us is, as big as that Arlington Cemetery is, McGonigal passes away, asked to be buried there. He's on the hill, about 20 rows up on the hill behind our mass grave. So God gave him that slot and there to still be over his crew. So those are emotional things, but yes, sir.
That's the same Lyndon Johnson that was awarded the Silver Star, right?
I assume he was, yeah. Yeah.
World War II Silver Star recipient.
Yeah.
How did you use it?
Well, it's interesting that. So I mean, I've said a lot. I don't know how long I've talked, but wow, longer than I expected. But I want to show some pictures. But before I do that, and Bob, come on up here with me too. I say we kind of ran together. I won't tell you the things we did on Liberty when we were over in Africa. yeah. But we all had a good time. But anyway, we want to show you some pictures. But before I do that, and we can talk about that during this, do we have a few more minutes? Let's open it up. Let's yes, sir.
Once you found out that it was the Israelis, once it dawned on you that it was the Israelis, to this day, what reason do you assign for them doing this?
Wow, it's
Take that.
you go ahead.
From my perspective,
Talk right here in this.
From my perspective, I honestly believe.
It's not working. That's fine.
Can you hear me okay? Okay, good. So I can tell you that we've, through the FOI and FOIA and Freedom of Information Act, that we've found out that the night before the USS Liberty was hit, he was very close to, Johnson was very close to Madeline Krim, who was married to Arthur Krim, a great filmmaker out in LA. And he had a close relationship with her. I say close. And what we managed to get a hold of was the White House log from June the 7th. And Matilda Krim spent the night in the White House, not the first time, by the way, on the night before the USS Liberty was attacked. And she was known as a Mossad agent, just saying. So there's a lot. Lyndon Johnson's, his popularity after starting the Vietnam War with the Gulf of Tonkin incident was waning. Riots in the country, all over the country, things going on. So he needed something to try to get him reelected. Another Gulf of Tonkin has been suggested. Gulf of Tonkin Part 2.
If I may.
Yes, sir.
The story that's been put forth is that it was during the Six-Day War, obviously, and this being an intercept vessel, was the story that I've come to believe was that you had intercepted potential troop movements, and the Israelis know that we can't keep secrets.
That's true, and there's also now coming out too more about the nuclear warheads that Israel was bringing in and so forth. So this is much deeper than Mo's story of under attack, believed to be Arabs, help is on the way, and they wanted us to get involved and go wipe out Egypt. It was a lot deeper than that. And because we don't have access, we get a little feedback, and we turn that down there a little bit. But what was I saying? Pardon?
It's deeper.
It's much deeper than because of, and we're just still trying. I met with this big global attorney the other day. You know what I fight though? Our shipmates fight? They want money. I mean, why would a guy that runs this big global law firm and has a true interest, who by the way bought my breakfast, has a true interest, and but yet there's no way for them to get paid. I mean, we can ask people. We have a website that we, I've got a sheet here with my name and my email and my website, our website on there, so forth, that you can take with you, because if you want any more information, if you want to go on our website, we have every newsletter, we have a gallery of pictures, we have a lot of stuff on there, but still we're trying to get access to the records that usually are 50 years kept undercover, and we still get, and then, you know, we've all heard over TV the last year or so the word redacted. Tons of these things that we pull up, they're blacked out. So that says anything of any quant. Another question? Yes, sir.
Did I hear that you were napalm?
Yes, sir.
Can you describe that?
Well, I wasn't there to watch it, but yeah, we have that.
Is this the thing? Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
There's a general idea of,
you can see some of the burning there. That's the hole,
that's the top.
the top hole. You'll see the rest of the hole. There's our hero.
These are wounded men on the USS America.
This is our mess
This is
decks.
the mess decks. There was, behind the mess decks was our sleeping quarters. And I had 125 guys in my bedroom. And there was, all the mattresses were taken off and moved out into the mess decks to put on top of these tables. And this is a good idea of what the ship looked like. You can see where the napalm hit the bridge.
See the real black up in the...
It's blackened. And they continue, that's a general idea, it's not a great picture, but you get an idea what the center of the ship looked like. As they circled us, they fired repeatedly into where they thought the engine room would be, hoping to hit something to cause us to explode. This gentleman, Ken Ecker, was hit with a
20 millimeter?
with a 20 millimeter round, or I think it was a 50 cal or something, but at any rate, in the back of his helmet, which spun around the liner, between the hard hat and the liner, and clipped him in the neck. And he refused to give up that helmet. He still has it today. These are pictures taken from the USS America.
When were those pictures taken?
June the 9th.
The morning of June the 9th. We saw,
That's not rust. That's the blood from Thomas. I think he was a first-class petty officer. He was our gunnery officer, or gunnery shipmate, and so he went up there and tried to... that's a 50 caliber machine gun, that little tub there.
Where was the flag flying when you were attacked?
See the smoke coming out of the thing there? Yeah.
interesting question. There it's hanging off the yardarm because twice the flag was shot away from the mainmast, from where it would typically run right up the mainmast. And so this is the third clean flag we had. They ran up the yardarm, and before that, the captain ordered that the holiday routine flag be put up, which is 7 by 13 feet. So any Israeli that says we weren't flying a flag is crazy, because we flew 4 flags.
So is
Yes,
that
sir.
out of White magazine?
That,
Correct.
What did they say? How did they say you got attacked?
We got on the June, I didn't bring that, but I have a copy of that.
that was a July issue. of,
Yeah, it was a July issue.
of Life.
Or the end of June or early July issue that, where they showed some pictures of the ship. And back on page 36 or something, while the cover of Life magazine was the heroic Israelis wiping out Egypt. That was the cover. We were back on page, whatever, 30.
And obviously it was an accident.
Yes, sir.
You had mentioned the antennas and all of the electronic equipment.
Yes.
Can you sort of show us front to back?
Absolutely. Well, you can see right here on the front. No, it's,
Back it up, back it up, back it up to that picture.
I don't think.
That main mast in the front, okay? Going from the bottom up, there's just wires going right up that mast. Then they shoot out on those little arms that they're hard to see in that picture. Maybe we can show those in a couple later pictures.
You can see these round cylinders. Okay, there's one there, there's one.
Let's go through some more
back
pictures.
forward
There might be
of the
some more.
bridge, And there's others. Those were our broadcast antennas. Those
For the
other-
sake of time, too, let's flip through so you can see a bunch of these things. Yes, sir.
Please use the mic.
Can
sorry.
you hear me on this?
Is that?
Oh.
Okay, I'm sorry. You probably don't want to hear my voice anymore.
Let's click some more. Let me have that.
One of my best friends was on the USS Liberty. And I just wondered if y'all might have known him. His name was Tommy Wheeler.
Wheeler?
Tommy Wheeler.
I bet he's in the book there. Was he during the attack?
Sir,
Was he on during the attack?
yeah. Oh, yeah.
I remember Wheeler.
He was
I remember that name.
dead with one of his buddies. And his buddy got his head shot off.
Yeah. That happened. Lieutenant Toth was blown to pieces.
The only thing he ever told me about that, he spent 4 years in a sanitarium when he got home.
Oh my
He's
God.
listed in the crew.
Yeah, he's listed as wounded. Yeah, he's in here. So let me go through here too now. If you see up here in the higher part of the picture, you see what looks like a deck where you saw that little small hole that was in there earlier in the water. So that's where we all were, and this is below where the thing became 24 feet and 34 feet wide. So that's when the torpedo, but up in the upper part up there is where the 50 people were. So just think of that going up a little higher or whatever, and by the way, that was dead center of the ship. That's an old Victory Hall, was a cargo ship that was converted into a spy ship. And usually on that look of a ship, your boiler rooms are in the dead center of the ship. Our boiler room was right behind that center. So there again, they were shooting for that boiler room. Had they hit the boiler room, of course, we would again split in half and sunk right then. Yes, ma'am.
I've had some dealings with the VA, so I understand the paperwork and the nightmare.
Keep going.
How can they look at this picture and deny an attack and not give you guys the benefits you deserve?
I mean, here's the thing. I'm standing here talking to you. Thank God I can talk about this because I have a lot of shipmates that have PTSD, and I know I do too. It certainly takes its toll on me. I know my wife and my family have suffered some and things for this, but yet because I sit here and talk like a sane person, I'm not perceived to have any issues or whatever. So I'm working on my, I've had 12 major, because of being stowed, I've had 8 fusions in my back. And remember, we waited 15 years, but we were afraid to even go to a doctor. Unless you were hurt so bad, you were in Bethesda, you were in a military thing, or your Wheeler might have been in a sanitarium or whatever. But let's keep, so this is important.
This is the spaces where Mo and I worked. And this is
Starting cleanup and getting bodies out.
after Mo had to leave the ship. There was the only people that could go in these spaces and pick up bodies and that had been soaked in salt water for 7 days before we were able to get down into the spaces. That picking up bodies, picking up body parts and classified material coated with fuel oil, just like this. That's where we worked, day in, day out.
Like I say, I got there the day the
This
ship
gentleman
came
right
in.
here is Terry Halbardier. He's the guy that ran the long wire to get that one antenna tuner working.
It took him 35 years to get the Silver Star because we kept talking about we give him the responsibility for saving our lives, for getting that.
This is also a general
SOS.
idea of what the center of the ship looked like, where they continuously pounded, circled and pounded the center of the ship with 20 millimeter cannon
We had a
fire.
couple dinghies, they're shot off. We had life rafts up here. Over here is a life raft holder. There's no life rafts
See
in
what
it.
that looks like?
There's
See
the
where the
napalm.
bridge, where the bridge was napalmed.
Can you imagine?
Actually, we
Because, I
were
mean,
required-
you've
we were
seen these
required-
movies with this napalm go off, how that must have been for the guys and the captain and all them that are on the bridge.
We were still at sea, and some of us were told to get up there with scrapers and cleaning fluid to get the napalm off of the bridge so nobody could see it. This is when they started repairing the ship. I don't know if we're going to see too much of that on here. This is when we left Norfolk on my first cruise in 1966, November of 1966. These are wounded crewmen aboard the USS America.
What eventually became of the ship itself?
That's a great question. As Mo said, the ship was repaired in Malta. Every hole was cut out and replaced with an exact matching piece of metal, smoothed over. You wouldn't have known the ship had ever been touched. Cleaned up, the 40-foot hole was all repaired, and sent her back to
Norfolk.
Norfolk like she'd never been touched.
Then
Put in
she got-
mothballs.
Yeah.
Put in mothballs, decommissioned, put in mothballs, and a year later sold for scrap. No evidence.
I
anywhere.
heard that Schick bought it for razor blades.
That's an idea of where the some of the napalm hit and really scorched. We scorched the side of that superstructure. Give you an idea where the napalm was as well on the bridge. You can see a lot of
See the
shell
antennas?
holes. Yeah, that's a
See all
good
the
picture of
cones?
the antenna.
They hit every one of those.
And that's the ship's identification that they couldn't see.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
They
about
thought
a
we were
15
called
foot, that's
the
a
El
15 foot
Irish,
five,
Egyptian cargo ship, half our size.
which would have been painted black.
GTR stand.
Geographical Technical Research. So we had an A in front of that too, auxiliary. So we were technical research.
This is the side of the bridge where that used to be our whaleboat, hung from those stanchions right there.
Look
These
at the
are-
life rafts.
These are life rafts right up here. This is one of the gun tubs.
Well, there's, look at the,
This
look
is
at the
this is the starboard side.
cannons coming through it.
Right. First thing they did was take out, and for a 300-mile-an-hour jet, that's a pea shooter. Yes, ma'am.
I'm sure you said it, but how were y'all able to get all of these like pictures and photograph evidence?
We all
Well, back there
we're
we didn't
sailors.
have-
We were
we didn't-
traveling around the world. We all had cameras.
We didn't have iPhones, we had cameras, we were told we could not use our cameras, we all snuck pictures wherever
We
we
took
could
all the
sneak
pictures
them.
we could.
And we've just accrued all this through our reunions and so forth and put this deck together. Yes, sir.
To the best of your knowledge, what do you think that the Israelis and the Johnson administration were trying to gain by this act? It seems relatively incomprehensible to me. That I can understand perhaps thought process why Israelis would want to take us out, but the confluence of the Johnson administration and the Israelis, I'd like to hear you elaborate on that.
That's a really tough question because I'm not sure I feel qualified to answer that, honestly. But, I mean, anything I would say would be speculation, but I believe and I've heard that Johnson wanted to be reelected, that he wanted to have a crisis that he could win instantly or whatever, and start this thing in the Middle East. And I mean, and I really don't feel comfortable trying to speculate much more than that. I feel like one of those guys on Fox News that has no clue what's going on, but he's an authority.
I understand that.
Yeah.
Historically, from what I understand is that the general consensus is that the Israelis were trying to draw us into either one or two things. The other gentleman talking about wanted us to suppress information. The other piece was that they were hoping to draw us into the war on the Israeli side.
Yes.
Do you have any thoughts on that?
It was all self-interest from the Israeli side of what they were doing. I mean, and getting us completely involved with them to complete their mission, so to speak, of what they wanted to accomplish and take over there.
That's what I feel. That's why I feel that members of the Johnson administration were definitely complicit in the attack on our ship, for us to go to the bottom, blame it on Egypt, blame it on Russia, and Gulf of Tonkin Part 2.
Thank you.
This give you an idea of the size of the torpedo hole. I don't know if you can see that gentleman standing inside the hole. And this is the outside. We covered it so in case bodies came out that way or anything that would not be seen. And these were all the desks and other materials that we were just throwing out the side that would eventually be cleaned out from the dry dock. The hole is huge. You could drive a tractor trailer through that bad boy right there. This is frame 52, where the torpedo hit on the other side of that, and these bulkheads had to be shored up to make sure that they
just
would not
jelly
cave in.
cruising in the water, and so the USS Davis crew came over with our people, Dave Lucas and his team.
This man is Ensign John Scott. He was our repair head of the repair group anyway, and his son wrote this book.
Attack on the Liberty. James Scott is a pretty well-known author. He's doing a lot of books on military.
Were y'all able to maintain power, keep something, generators running while?
No, actually not. The ship was dead in the water for a while after the attack, and the attack ended. We were just dead in the water. We managed to get Lieutenant Golden was able to get. He was the head engineer. Managed to get power. Managed to get the boilers working, and the engine started. And I think we cruised at about 5 knots overnight to where we met up with the America, the Massey, and the Davis at about 8 o'clock or so the next morning. That's the first help we got.
Keep going, yes. So that's still inside the spaces, the research spaces. Keep going. So you just see the damage there. You're looking, you see somebody down in the hole there too. That's all the debris coming out. Keep going. Let's go. Get through these. That's from inside. Back up. That's from inside, looking at the hole coming in. So once so much has been cleaned out.
Several years ago, I read where one of the Israeli pilots radioed back to command and said, this is an American ship, I want to reconfirm.
He was in prison.
He's in prison?
He was. He was arrested and put in prison.
That's true. That's a true story. It's on tape. Yeah.
This is the skipper's cabin right here.
So there's no doubt that he knew it was an American ship.
Without question.
Right.
I mean, there again, remember those boxcars that morning? Our flag was flying.
This is where they started repairing the ship. You can see where they've squared out some holes, and they will patch those with.
Every armored piercing hole is cut out perfectly, you see, on the front of the bridge, because you see the ones that haven't been yet on the side. And we patched up the side of the ship, too. Yes, ma'am?
So how far in advance do you think this thing had to be planned? Because we were...
Wow.
I mean, that had to take...
If it, well, I think that I think Israel didn't have a long time to plan because they didn't know we were coming unless somebody in Washington told them we were on our way, which would make sense. Again, I'm speculating, but it only makes sense today when we certainly feel that Johnson and McNamara had knowledge and approved this to happen.
I mean, they chose that ship to go over there.
It's just mind-boggling. It makes it so much more today with the cover-up, how it still continues. I mean, several of us have been on Nightline and different things, never made the air, censored instantly when those things come about. I was on CNN at our first reunion in the early 80s. A guy named Ledbetter interviewed me for 20 minutes. I got 20 seconds on TV, and my partner at that time was Jewish. But somehow he took and made me sound anti-Semitic out of all they clipped out of my thing for 20 seconds. And my partner calls me that evening and says, Mo, I said, yeah, Elliot. He says, from now on, I'm going to have a Menachem Begum screen all my phone calls from you, or whatever. So throwing a little humor into it, but still, you think about that, of how, when you are interviewed, or how we see a lot of these things take place, how they can clip and cut and whatever, and dub and do in. So I just say, be aware, anybody, of, I probably would not go on either one of those networks and talk like I'm talking right now to you all. Because this is America right here. I have not personally been threatened, but there again, it's been 15 years since I've said anything, so I don't know what will happen after today. Handing out, I might get some hate mail. I might get whatever, because I don't know who's talking, who's there, or whatever. I've been in a couple situations to where we've had people walk out, and I understand that. It's just a sad situation. Keep going there. Let's flip through.
This is a base for one of the antennas we were talking about. This had the tuners in there that would heat up, and the heat-seeking missile definitely found this one more than once.
Let's go.
I believe that's Larry Weaver. I want to shout out real quick to Larry Weaver, who's had about 41 surgeries since he was literally torn apart on the fantail of the ship during the first
he lived in Hawaii. He said, yeah,
we call him Superman.
Yeah. Dave Lewis was our commander of the security group. Okay, he sat inside the front door there or whatever. I just talked to him this week. He's in his mid-80s, and he was a lieutenant commander, and he was our king, so to speak, to take care of the security guys. He was right beside where the torpedo went off and took the flash and blinded him. They had to slit his eyes open or whatever, and he was fine. We had another guy who was flash burned really bad too, but it was so superficial. There's your mess decks right there. That's Captain McGonigal. There on the bridge, being tended to with his wounds. I told you he was wounded very badly, almost bled to death, but would not give up the ship. Go ahead.
I think that's it.
Okay. But anyway, any more comments or questions from anybody? Yes, sir.
You mentioned you had a doctor aboard. Did you have any corpsmen as well?
We had one corpsman. And then we had 100 more corpsmen that were clueless. But it's amazing what you do when you're doing things because you're reacting to what you feel their needs are or whatever. And what was major when you saw that mess deck and those people sitting there, the consoling of people, of come on, hang in there, stay there, do whatever. Because, I mean, they're saying why. We're all saying why. But if you're laying there and just blown to pieces and with no reason, it's just senseless. And so I don't know where this goes. I'm going to, I try to, in 90% of my life, stay away from this. I still talk about it to guys at my club in Atlanta. You know, we talk about it some. I say we have, I volunteered to be the chairman of our finances, and Bob is our treasurer of our Liberty Veterans Association, but my wife runs the whole thing. And so
I do volunteer.
yeah. And then we have the ship store, which you'll see if you go on the website. We'll leave you here to take with you, where you can order any type of memorabilia that you'd like. You know, what we love more than anything else is any support. And we're talking about $5, $20, anything or whatever, because all our funds that we raise are simply used to try to get to the truth. We continually fight to get to the truth. And it's profound how many supporters we have that come out. The unfortunate part that we have, the legacies that we all have in this room, most of us is our age. My kids don't care. Okay, so who carries on the legacy for everything we've done or whatever? And so we just pray that I had a young college guy call me this afternoon on the way over here for something that happened recently, and it made all the news of some guy in a college thing, and somebody mentioned the Liberty when they were talking about Israel, and he went off. He just went off completely. I don't know if anybody saw that news clip. It was on the news, but so he wants to meet with me next week and maybe get us more involved with the young people in colleges. So I hope so. Yes, sir.
So I know in the first 24 hours or 48 hours, you had immediate needs. But when did you start wondering what happened and who was it that attacked you?
We knew that day it was Israel who attacked us. We certainly never knew why, okay, except Egypt and Israel are at war. So they're trying to bring us in as our captain or whoever could communicate with us, our officers or whoever, to simply say that we're speculating again that they hit us wanting us to go in and wipe out Egypt. We didn't know if those 4 planes were coming our way. We didn't know anything about those planes off the America with the nuclear warheads on them. We never knew. We never knew this till way after the attack. As we all got together, we had Captain Tully off to Saratoga come to our unions. We waited till 1982 before somebody had the nerve or whatever, because we were under this spell by the admirals that we couldn't talk or say anything to our families or anybody, that all of a sudden we had this reunion in Washington, D.C. And a few of us got to that. And then I can't tell you the fellowship, the tears, the stories, but I tell you the most fun part of that in every reunion that we go to from now to, every sea story that anybody had gets bigger and bigger and bigger. Okay, so we laugh till our jaws hurt with each other while we're crying, because we ring the bell 34 times every time we're together for our 34 fallen shipmates. So, and when you guys go home today or tonight and say your prayers, just rest in peace, the shipmates. And we've lost quite a few since then, but that's attrition, that's age, and a lot of things. Yes, ma'am?
Are there long-lasting effects from napalm? Is napalm different from Agent Orange?
I can't answer that question at all. If anybody was right there and took...
See, I would say it's mental, is what it is. Napalm is it's gasoline that is... Yeah. Oh, it's polyurethane, is that what it is? I can tell
like jelly,
it burns
right?
very well. Yeah, it's a jelly. Yes, sir.
How do we actually stand now with Israel?
How do we stand with Israel right
You
now?
have to ask somebody else. I have no clue.
I mean,
I think Congress and the Senate is owned, and I'm not going to say anything else.
it's our number one ally. They get the most money of anybody. I've said this to friends or family members too, and so it's not about who did what, but you know, you wonder of the Middle East. The second any human's born in the Middle East, I don't care which country it is over there, you're taught to hate. You're never ever taught anything but to hate. There's no way we will ever resolve any issue in infinity in the Middle East. Period. It's not going to happen. So you can take what Trump says or what this says or what this says, what this says. Nothing. We're wasting lives. So that's my 2 cents. So I can't thank you all enough. Yes, ma'am.
Do you have a lot of the family members of those who are lost that participate in
We
this?
do.
Good.
We do. Even the kids nowadays, they come, and we had our 50th reunion in Norfolk 2 years ago, and I had the privilege of kind of putting that together, and we had 39 shipmates actually come. That's a lot to get the shipmates out at our age now coming across the country, and we had about 110 people, and I brought, first time my youngest son had always come, but I brought my grandchild, I brought all, everybody in my family, and we encouraged a lot of people to do that, and it was profound. And we used to get the media to come and invite them to come, but we've learned we don't care anything about the media coming to our We're going to Pensacola, Florida, where the Naval Security School was next June, the weekend of June the 8th, for our 53rd reunion. Nobody's invited but just us to go fellowship, be together. The sea stories will get bigger, and we'll have a great time. So
How were those families notified? Who is the name?
we have this Liberty Veterans Association that you're welcome to look at. When I give you a sheet here today, I got a whole stack of just my name and all the information on it. If you want to take one of those with you, I'd love to hear from you, and I can connect you with anybody in our ship. We have a board of 5 guys. Bob's on the board of directors. I just kind of direct the whole organization. So somebody's got to, I make sure the newsletter happens. We do a newsletter every 4 months. So we ask people to contribute to that if they have things they want to add to it. And we'll talk about today in that. But we probably have 800 on our list. And I won't say they're all members because we charge $20 a year to be members, and we never collect more than $2,500. So a lot of freebies out there, but we're not going to run anybody off. But then we have some very generous organizations that try to help us out. I know I've overextended my welcome, and
You and Bobby want to stick around?
yes, thank you. If anybody wants to touch us or whatever, we'll hang around a little bit and have any questions or whatever. And these over here, these are the sheets right here with my information on them.
Yeah. You ever read Day of Deceit about